Hey, fellas! Stop. How am I gonna start this video? I don't even know. It's like a 2 minute. Ugh, Lord. Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a continuation of my video. The calendar video, how and when to reuse calendars. So, if you haven't seen that video, you can check it out, but you don't necessarily need to because we're going to be basically going over all of the details in this video. So, in my last video, I discovered that you reuse calendars either every 6, 11, or 28 years, depending on if it's a leap year and how close you are to your next leap year. So, I went ahead and came up with an Excel spreadsheet that you guys can create yourself. You can copy this exact thing in your Excel spreadsheet, and you can figure out when your next reusable calendars are. So, to start off, we have to ask, is it a leap year? Are we even dealing with a leap year to begin with, right? And we have our year that is going to be entered. This is going to be referenced in a lot of different places, okay? So, to enter our year, we just simply put in the value that we want for a year. And this is going to be our entered year. Now, to first start off, we got to find out if it is a leap year. So, if you don't remember, a leap year is any year that is divisible by 4, but not divisible by 100, unless if it is also divisible by 400. So, for example, the year 1896 is a leap year, but the year 1900 is not a leap year because it is divisible by 100. However, the year 2000 is a leap year because it is also divisible by 400. Now, in order for us to be able to find out in order for us to figure out if we're currently dealing with a leap year, we have to do a couple of calculations. Now, there are probably more simple ways to do it, but the way I did it, I like the way that I did it. There are probably more simple ways to go about doing this, but I like the way that I did it because you can pretty clearly see what's going on the screen most of the time. Now, to start off, we have to simply find out if it's divisible by 4. To find out if a number is divisible by 4, we simply have to take our value, our year, which is our A14 cell right here, right? This is A14. So anytime you see A14, it's referencing that cell. And we simply take that year and divide it by 4, and we subtract it by the truncated version of that number divided by 4. If that value equals 0, then we do know for a fact that it is indeed divisible by 4. Now, to show that it's divisible by 4, I said that the value would be 1. So, if this cell right here says 1, that means that it is divisible by 4. If it says 0, that means it is not divisible by 4. So, for example, if we do the year 2016, we can see right here that indeed, yes, it is 1. The value is 1. It is indeed divisible by 4. If we do a year that is not divisible by 4, like 2015, we can see that this value is indeed not 1. Now, we have to do the same for if it's 100, and it's simply basically the same exact idea. If it's divisible by 100, then we do the same exact thing, except instead, if the value is true, if it is divisible by 100, then we have to make it -1, and you'll see why in just a moment. So instead of it being a +1, it'll be a -1. So for example, if we do the year 1900, it is indeed divisible by 4, but it is also divisible by 100. So we have a -1 here. But we have to have our exception for if it is divisible by 400. So we go back to the drawing board and we basically copy what we did with the divisible by 4, except we make it divisible by 400. Same exact thing, except it is divisible by 400. Now that we have 3 different entries and 3 different possible values, we want to see if our number is going to equal 1 for our sum. So right here we have a sum, and we add our 3 different values right underneath it. We add, our B15, our B16, and our B17. If our value is equal to 1, then we say that the value is yes, or that the answer is yes. If it is not equal to 1, then the answer is no. And that makes sense, because for the case of the year 1900, we have -1 plus 1 plus 0. That equals 0. So that means that it is not a leap year, which it isn't. But if we have the year 2015, for example, it's just 0 plus 0 plus 0. It is not a leap year. 2016? Well, we have 0 plus 0 plus 1. It is a leap year, so indeed it does say yes. But if we have a year 2000, then it'll be 1 minus 1, which is 0, plus 1, which is 1. So our value is going to be 1, yes. And that's how we're going to write it down. Now, it's important to know if the year we're dealing with is a leap year, but we also need to know how close we are to the next leap year. So we're going to simply have this copied. We're basically going to just copy all of this and paste it right here. And we're going to ask, will it be a leap year in 1 year? So we have this be our A14, which is our entered year, plus 1. So it'll be whatever this year is, plus 1. And it'll do the exact same calculations. It'll say, is this divisible by 400? Is it divisible by 4? Is it divisible by 100? It'll do the exact same calculations. And we do that for the year we do that for up to 4 plus years. So we do A14 plus 1. We do C14 plus 1, which would be this. This is C14. We do E14 plus 1, which is this. This is E14. And we do G14 plus 1, and this is G14. So we get our, 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004. And it's important to know if all of these values and how many of these values are leap years. So now we have, we can see clearly we have yes, no, 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 yes. So in year 2000, it is a leap year. The year 2004 is a leap year. It'll be a leap year in 4 years. Now, for the purposes of the way I created it, I did a duplication of this, except instead of it saying yes if it is a leap year and no if it isn't a leap year, I said it's 1 if it's a leap year and 0 if it's not a leap year. Now, you can absolutely just ignore this when you're creating this yourself. You can just simply refer to this and say, well, this is yes. But I did a little bit of math in the future, so you're going to have to rework it a little bit if you're going to do it differently. So you might want to do a copy of this if you want to do it the exact same way that I'm doing it. So this is the exact same formula, except instead of it saying yes and no, it says 1 and 0. So how do we find out how many years there is until it's a leap year? Well, we have to do an if statement, if multiple, in an if-then multiple statement, right? Our first logical test is finding out if our first year, the year that we entered, is a leap year. If this value is 1, then we know that it is a leap year. If it is 0, then we know that is not a leap year. So we have right here, if B18 equals 1, then we have 0 years to our leap year, because that means that it is currently the leap year. You don't have to go any further in the future. You have your leap year. It is not any amount of years to your next leap year. If the value, for example, was, we would put in 2001, well, all of a sudden, now it's 3 years to our leap year. Well, how did that happen? Well, that was from us putting in the fact that if it is 3 years to our leap year, then we say that it is 3, right? So we say for this, H18 equals 1, then the answer is 3. I did skip a couple of steps because I didn't quite think this through, but that's fine. You'll get the idea. For D18 right here, right? If this equals 1, if this value right here equals 1, then that means that we are 1 year away from our leap year, which will be the case in the year 2003. As you can see, this value is 1. We are 1 year to our next leap year. Now, obviously that's the same thing for 2000, or for 2 years away, and it's the same for 4 years away. Now, of course, the thing about that is that, as you may have noticed, for the cases of the year 2000, it is both a leap year in 2000 and also a leap year 4 years in the future in 2004. Well, the reason why we have two different instances is because, once again, for this example, where the year is 1900. In the year 1900, it is not a leap year, but in 4 years, it will be a leap year. So, in that case, we have our value if J18, if this equals 1, then it is 4 years to a leap year. Now, in a if logical statement, especially an ifs logical statement, it goes through all of the logical tests and it takes the answer for the first one that is true. So in our current case right here, if we had the year 2000, well, you might be a little confused. It's like, well, this is true, this is 1, and this is 1. So how does it know which one to do? Well, that's why you have to make sure that you put our B18 equals 1 first. That way it's not confused and it doesn't do the wrong year. So it says it is currently the leap year. Don't ignore the fact that this equals 1. We don't care. We're not going to have the value equal 4. We're just going to say this equals 1. So there's 0 years to our next leap year. So, good. Now we know how many years there is to our next leap year. How do we find out when our next reusable calendar is? Well, if you remember from my video that I posted way back, you'll know that if you are 0 years away, right? We're going to go through this step by step. So, if we are 0 years to our next leap year, that means that it is currently the leap year. That means that we're going to take our current year and we're going to add 28 to it. So, whatever your current year is, you're going to add 28 years to it. That'll be the next time that you can reuse that calendar, because it is the same exact calendar. So in this case, we have the year 2000. Our next reusable calendar is in the year 2028. If we are 1 year away, so in the case for 2003, we have this instant right here. A20 equals 1. A20 is how many years to our next leap year. If we are 1 year away, that means we're going to add 11 years to our current year, and that'll give us the next reusable calendar. So for this case, we have 2003. That's 1 year away from our next leap year, which would be 2004. So we're going to add 11 years to this. Our next reusable calendar will be in 2014. That means that our 2003 calendar and the 2014 calendar are the exact same. And that's the same exact thing with 2002. It is also 11 years. And in this case here, we have, that would be A14, right? A14, or sorry, not A14, that would be A20 equals 2 right here. So A20 equals 2. It is 2 years to our next leap year. That means we're going to take this value and add 11 to it. And as far as 3 years go, we're going to add 6. So instead of 11 or 28, we're going to be adding 6. Secondary Deimos entry. So, how do we find out? I should also get into an alpha year real quick. What is an alpha year? An alpha year is what we're going to say is where the cycles start and stop for when you are able to reuse the calendars within our cycles of the days of the week here, as you can see here, but I'll get into that in just a moment. So, an alpha year is basically any year that is a number divisible by 28 years away from our Deimos year. So if your year is 28 years, well, actually, our alpha year, it's not always for the Deimos year. If it is a Deimos alpha year, then it is 28 years, 56 years, or 84 years away from our Deimos year. But for the Phobos year, it's the same thing. It's just that it's as far as the alpha years go, it's the same thing, except it's for it's not like it's the same deal. It's 28, 56, or 48 years away. But that being said, it doesn't actually quite work that well, and it only is actually 20 years away, and 20 it's only 20 years away, because once you get to 56 years, then you start to go over into different century groups, and you don't want to do that because the century groups have to be individually split. So here we have our primary century group, our primary Phobos century group. Our primary Phobos century group is between 124. It's let me rephrase that. We have our primary Phobos alpha years. If your year is 124 years, 152 years, or 180 years away from your most recent Deimos alpha year, then you have a Phobos alpha year. And these Phobos alpha years are also cyclical of 28 years. As you can see, the difference between these numbers is 28. As far as our secondary Phobos alpha years, we have, if it is 220 years away from our most recent Deimos alpha year, 248 years or 276 years away. And that'll determine whether or not you have a secondary Phobos alpha group, or alpha year, sorry. So for example, we have our year 2000, which is a Deimos year. So if we have the year 2152, this is indeed a, as you can see, IPPA, which is primary Phobos alpha year. So we do indeed have a alpha year for our primary Phobos century group in the year 2152. And as you can see here, we also have one 20 years above and 20 years ahead. So the year 2180 and the year 2124 are also alpha years within our Phobos century, primary Phobos century group. For our secondary Phobos century group, we're going to have to go to our next century pairing. So you once you go over to our next century, so like this is for the century of 2100, right? So all of these values go from the year 2100 to the year 2199. Once you go over to the year 2200, you have to go into our secondary Phobos alpha group, or secondary Phobos century group. So, for example, if we have the year 2248, it is our secondary Phobos alpha year. In fact, it is our secondary Phobos year. It is our secondary Phobos year, which means that it is basically the middle. And I tried my best to keep it in the middle because I wanted to have as many, alpha years within a century span as we can. So, from our year 2248, we have indeed our one. So, we do indeed have our one alpha year. Sorry, we do indeed have our one Phobos year. So, you might be wondering what these values are about, right? What are these years for? Well, these years, it's simply just subtracting it, right? So we have our value right here, our entered year that we entered, and we subtract it by the number right next to it. So this one is, the year 2248 minus 124. This one is the year 2248 minus 152, and so on. And all of these apply to these as well. And I should probably, make these different, maybe different cell styles, perhaps. I don't know what cell style I would want to do. I don't know. Whatever. I'll just leave it. So yeah, there goes simples enough. Now this isn't entirely accurate. This isn't accurate for our Phobos years. So you can ignore these right here. These are incorrect. because these are two different pairings, right? So right here, we just simply subtract 28, and we can simply see for our fifth Deimos century group, because I basically just counted how many centuries has it been, which is, and as far as math goes, it is 28 times 5? Is that what it was? No. It's 28 times 16. What is 28 times 16? No, it's not that. I forgot what it was exactly, but I definitely did some math for it. We're going to just ignore that. So right here, we have our alpha year, and, well, it's an alpha year, but we have our Deimos year for our fifth Deimos century group, and we have our alpha year for our Deimos year for our sixth Deimos century group, and we have all of the alpha years within the century group. So 1916, 1944, 1972, 2028, 2056, 2084, those are all alpha years within our Deimos century group. Now, there are more alpha years within this period, but not all of them are visible. I could do some. I could do this number here, where I move these up and then enter the other ones. So we have. We only have 6 in this case instead of the 7 we have here, and that's simply just because we, once again, we have limited years because it's only within the 100-year cycles. 22. So, for example, we have 22. Well, we have 2248. We have 2220, 2248, and 2276, just as an example. And then I'll just do equals 400 plus this. So there we go. Now we have our true actual alpha years for all of these pairings. So we have 7 alpha years within a Deimos century group, and we have 6 alpha years within a Phobos century group, and we have 3 for each century grouping. So for our primary and our secondary. So this is for the primary, this is for the secondary. And I did a little bit of more math here just so you can, or not math, a bit of a better explanation here. What are these? And I put the date of the week, and I put how many non-leap years. And this is the distance from the Mars Moon. If you're watching this in 2020, be sure to keep your calendars. Be sure to remember to reuse them in the year 2040. I'll see you guys around. I'll tell you. I'll see you guys around.